I was always trapped in Keith Lemon, so I didn't think I was messing about because I was so in character. Sometimes in early days, I couldn't remember what I'd said or done because I was so in character. Even more so with Avid Merrion because it was a different accent, and you just train your brain to think differently.
How at ease are you now that you are presenting as you
Yeah.
rather than as we know you as
Yeah.
Keith Lemon?
Well, the thing is, I didn't really know who I was because I've always played characters. I was a tiny bear. I was Avid Merrion. I was Keith Lemon. I was Amanda Holden's Grand Myrtle. But what's good about radio is you can still play about being those people, and now and again I'll be those people on air because you can't see me, so I don't have to dress up as an old lady and be someone's gran from television. I can just do the voice. Actually, I just pop the teeth in. When I'm the bear, though, I feel like I've got to wear the bear. So I'm sat there sweating in a bear costume doing radio. No one can see me.
But the show is hosted by Leigh Francis.
Yeah.
So who is Leigh Francis?
Well, that's what I'm learning to, who I am. It's my second week now, and I feel like I'm starting to know who I am. I'm not a million miles away from Keith Lemon because Keith Lemon became me. Luckily, I didn't become him. Otherwise, I would have gone mad. But he became me. Just for longevity. I can remember one of my Leeds friends saying to me, "Since when could Keith Lemon do impressions and draw really good?" And I just went, longevity.
But your family know for
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
They really know you. So why have you decided now's the time for the public to get to know who you actually are rather than the personas that you can play?
Everything was decided on my age. I became 50. And you just see things differently. I was just talking to Jay Middlemiss. I won't say how old she is because that's rude. But we're in a similar...
Also on Virgin Radio, yeah.
Yeah. We're in a similar bracket of age. And we were talking about it. And he said, you know what, we've done quite a lot. So you feel like you got there. We did it. It worked. And now it's kind of like a bit more fun and respect that whatever happens is the cherry on the cake. And I'm name dropping crazy now. I was talking to Kate Beckinsale as well, only via Instagram. I've only met her twice, I think, in real life. But she was saying to me, I think this is when it gets good. And it feels like this is when it gets good because I've done loads of things I would never normally do. I probably would never have filled in for Ricky Wilson on Virgin Radio in the past because I would have wanted to do it in character. This year I've done some other shows. I did a Spider-Man documentary and I did Portrait Artist of the Year as me. And that was really weird because all the presenters and the crew were calling me Leigh, and all the people that came in to watch, the public, were all calling me Keith Lemon. And I could see the confusion on their face when they were calling me Leigh, like, who's Leigh? Who's Leigh? And I go, oh, it's me. I just sound a bit like Keith Lemon because he became me.
So you're saying it's about age, but what was it? Was it that you just thought, I'm tired of being Keith Lemon, or I want to have a clean break from it?
Age. It was age. You turn 50 and you see everything differently.
But lots of people turn 50, they don't change their outward-facing persona.
Just me, then. That's all it was. It's like, I want to try different things now. But funny enough, I was talking to someone today about Keith Lemon saying, I always felt I wasn't old enough to be him because in my mind, Keith Lemon was older, pretending to be young. But now I feel like I'm older than he was.
Okay, right. So maybe Keith Lemon hasn't aged.
Yeah.
To what extent are you enjoying the fact that you can have a bit of a break and try other things?
Yeah, I don't feel too much pressure to do funnies. Like, I guess when you're Keith Lemon, you feel compelled to be funny and you have to be. And as me, I don't feel like I have to be. But I've just discovered that I mess about more than I thought I did because I was always trapped in Keith Lemon. So I didn't think I was messing about because I was so in character. Sometimes in early days, I couldn't remember what I'd said or done because I was so in character. Even more so with Avid Merrion because it was a different accent, and you just train your brain to think differently. So now it's really relaxing. I can talk about Jill, my wife, and the kids. I never say their name of the kids. I always say they're called Jeff and Bob. But I do talk about having kids. But they don't really know about Keith Lemon and stuff because people ask me, oh, does Keith Lemon go home with you? No, just go home and be me, which is a worry sometimes because if people slag Keith Lemon off, I just go, so what? It's just the characters. They're not slagging me off. But now, I guess, going forward, if people do slag me off, I'll go, oh, they don't like me. Oh, I'm going to eat something that's gone off so I can feel the pain. I probably won't eat anything that's gone off. But, I'd like punish myself in some sort of way via my mouth.
Is there a risk that Leigh Francis becomes a new character?
No, I don't think so. Maybe I've become lazy and I just can't be bothered. But I constantly feel compelled to mess about because I'm immature.
Mm.
And I'm even more immature since I've had kids because we just mess about and it's trying to make each other laugh at home, I guess.
There's been a lot of pranks in Virgin Radio over the last week and a
I've
half.
just been pranked.
Tell me what happened.
So last week I pranked Andy Goldstein, who's a good mate of mine, and I phoned in as a Geordie man called Dave. I phoned into Talk Sport, and I know nothing about football, but they gave me some words and some names. Because before that, all I ever knew was Kevin Keegan, who used to be on my school bag when I was at school. But I thought it was Anita Dobson from EastEnders because they've got similar hair. And so I phoned in and pretended to be someone else. And then just now, I was saying, I want to get him back, but I want to do a scare this time because I know he's scared of everything. He doesn't watch horror films.
Okay.
And we was talking about Nightmare on Elm Street the other day, and he said he'd never seen it. He's only just watched Michael Jackson's Thriller, Behind His Eyes, though. And I thought it'd be really funny if I get in a box and they deliver like a big box to him in the studio, and then jump out as Freddy Krueger. And he heard me saying all of that. It was just behind the door where I was stood, and then he scared me, and I said expletives.
Right.
But we'll bleep those expletives and use it in the show, probably.
That sounds sensible.
Yeah.
I think we do a bit more sensible at Times Radio than you do upstairs.
Yeah.
Where do you get your news from?
My news? Oh, what, like showbiz gossip? On Instagram and stuff?
Or less about showbiz gossip. I mean, how sort of engaged are you? Because you must need it for
my
your stand.
news? You mean
your
the news of the world?
The news of the world,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm not interested.
Not at all?
No. It's... do you know what? I'll flick it on, and then my wife will say, what are you watching news for? And I went, just so I know a little bit so I can converse with people. And but I don't need to know too much, especially when lockdown happened. It was so miserable. And for some reason in lockdown, I was wearing black clothes, and then I changed my mind and just thought, because it really does dictate your mood, what you wear, doesn't it? And started wearing bright colours again at home and not watching the news. So if a newspaper floats around, I'll have a little glance. But I don't really want to take in the real world. I'm often told that I live in my own world, and I do, and it's fun.
Are you listening to the news bulletins on your programme?
No. I normally try to do a link to them and say, now it's the news. But I get told I don't have to, and I always go, I wonder what the traffic's like right now. But I don't have to care about the traffic or the news. Just talk about silly things in between songs seems like the requirement.
Well, yes, to some extent. Okay, that's interesting that you sort of deliberately choose to disengage with the news.
Yeah, it's a horrible world we live in, isn't it? I collect toys, movie toys, and I have a room at home. I just go in there and regress. And sometimes I think, what a waste of money that I own all these 12-inch men. But it does make me happy sometimes. And just that, it's my safe haven back in the 80s, the lovely times.
Okay, so hobby's not hard news.
Yeah.
Even in talking about how you're presenting your radio show, you're putting on accents, which makes me believe, again, the characters are sort of part of your now radio persona.
I guess they are, yeah. Well, I always thought all the characters I play are always, I think any character actor will say that it's always a little bit of them in all the characters. Yeah, I think the bear's like, so he's really arrogant, and that's the kind of side of me I would always try and hide, because I've worked in telly for a long time, and I don't like the arrogance when some people have it, when they're a bit arrogant about it. But I guess I do that with the bear, and it makes me laugh, and people do laugh that I'm working with because they know that's not me, and we laugh how arrogant the bear is. Avid's an obsessive. I'm an obsessive. I collect things. And Keith Lemon, to me, was just someone who's like uber confident, doesn't know anything, but thinks he knows everything, whereas I don't know anything and don't believe I know anything. But I'm not that confident either. But people think I am, but I'm not. I've become
What do you have
carefree.
confidence in?
In art. Yeah, I've always wanted to do an art show. A lot of people who know that I can paint and draw and make things always say, why don't you bring back an adult version of Art Attack? I went, what's an adult version? Does that mean use expletives while you're painting? That's weird. But you don't need to bring back Art Attack. I'll just bring my own program to the table in which I do art.
Well, there's a pitch.
Yeah.
The challenge you're going to have, I think, I'm talking to you, I can see you, and
Hello.
I'm having to think it's not Keith. Don't say
because I look
Keith.
exactly like him.
Well, clearly. So how do you manage that sort of PR machine?
But
you've
when
got
I was
to do?
Avid, and when I was Avid Merrion, I looked exactly like him. And then to look different, I grew my hair and bleached it, which was an horrendous thing to do. Have you ever had highlights in your hair? It takes so long. How many times can you talk about your holiday? And I didn't like having... The lady who used to do it for me was such a lovely lady as well. And we sit there with Heat magazine, which used to be my Bible back then. And then I decided I don't want to dye my hair anymore. But I looked like Keith then with blonde hair because that's how I walked around. Although the tash was, I decided to have a tash because I thought that was silly, even though lots of young men have tashes now. And then I decided I don't want to dye my hair anymore. And so I always look like Keith Lemon still. And then the hats as Keith Lemon, I wanted to meet Pharrell from Pharrell. And I went to the Brits. I knew Pharrell was going to be there. And yeah, I met him because I had the same hat as he did. And he said, nice hat. And I said, nice hat. That was the end of that meeting, but it was a glorious time. And now I feel like I know him, but I don't know him. But in his crazy mind, I guess when I go back to Leeds, have you met then? Have you met Pharrell? Yeah, I have.
Well, I'm going to tell people that I met
the PR people, I have a person now.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm doing a tour in March. It's my first. That's another thing because I'm 50. I thought I've never done a tour. I've got to do a tour. So I'm doing a tour, and that's sold as me. It's
branded as Leigh Francis.
Leigh Francis, my first time. And the PR person said, when you do interviews, can you not wear a hat? I went, why? They said, because then people will know that you're not Keith Lemon if you don't wear a hat. And I went, but I do wear hats in real life as well. Well, can you just not wear a hat? It's easy enough not to wear a hat, I guess.
Are you bored of talking about the name change?
Not really.
Well, that's good.
Do you know what? Even doing this is exciting. I'm still excited by interviews. Any sort of media excites me. Like, I love television. I love living in London. Not that I hate where I'm from, but when people come down here, my friends will always go, it's too fast, couldn't live here. I still like walking along the South Bank and go, wow, I live in London. Isn't it exciting? I'm really excited by things. Always. Too much. Like a 10-year-old.
Well, there were.
Can you imagine what I'm like when I'm making love to my wife? Wow, this is amazing. I never thought this would happen, but it did. And we had 2 kids. I love you.
Leigh Francis, thank you so much for coming in to join us on Times Radio.
Thanks, Rosie.